Whitney Houston's sudden death at the age of 48 left those close to her in shock, but few people know that just hours before she passed away, the singer called her longtime assistant Mary Jones and made a heartbreaking confession. Although Whitney Houston was incredibly successful and beloved by millions, her private life was marked by heartbreak and scandal. She faced scrutiny and backlash from the media, but her talent was undeniable. From the moment she was born, Whitney was surrounded by musicians. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a gospel singer, her first cousin was Dionne Warwick, and her godmother was Darlene Love. Aretha Franklin also played an important role in her life, serving as her honorary aunt. With this kind of support, Whitney was bound to have a musical destiny. Religion played a significant role during Houston's formative years. Church became her first creative outlet, a place where she could develop her talents. As she grew up, her talent became more and more undeniable, but it wasn't a smooth road to stardom. In the early 1980s, Houston struggled to gain recognition for her music until one life-changing night. An AR representative who had heard her sing convinced his boss, Arista Records head Clive Davis, to attend one of her performances. By the end of the night, Davis had offered her a recording contract. It seemed like the beginning of a fairy tale, but one that would ultimately have no happy ending. Critics praised her debut album, Whitney Houston, which produced several hit songs. However, as a black artist, Houston faced barriers in the industry. When she submitted the video for one of her early singles to MTV, the network refused to play it. But the success of her next few singles was so overwhelming that MTV had no choice but to put them into rotation. One of the more notable contributors to her debut album was Jermaine Jackson, of the famous Jackson family. Houston and Jackson spent long hours together in the studio, and eventually their working relationship turned romantic. There was one major complication. Jackson was married. Despite this, the two continued their relationship in secret for months. In the end, Jackson chose not to divorce his wife, leaving Houston devastated by his decision. Fortunately, Whitney Houston's debut album soared straight to the top of the charts, set records, and earned her a slew of awards. As they say, success is the best revenge. But with fame came intense scrutiny, and the tabloids were relentless. They constantly speculated about her personal life, even suggesting she was romantically involved with her close friend Robin Crawford. There were also rumors that Houston was secretly dating comedian Eddie Murphy. Neither of them ever confirmed a relationship. In fact, they seemed to enjoy keeping the press guessing. At Houston's 26th birthday party, Murphy gave her a 5.5-carat diamond ring. In an interview with Ebony magazine, Houston claimed they were just friends, only to joke about dating moments later. But Houston's romantic life was about to become very public. Houston's second album was another massive success, but it came with backlash. Some fans and critics accused Whitney Houston of selling out, and the criticism reached a cruel peak at the 1989 Soul Train Awards. When her name was announced as a nominee, much of the audience responded with loud boos. Houston was deeply hurt, but that night would prove significant for another reason. It was also the night she met R&B singer Bobby Brown. The two quickly entered into a whirlwind romance, but Brown had a troubled and complicated past. He had been involved with gangs, survived and was already the father of 3 children by the age of 22. And there was more. When Whitney Houston began dating Brown, he was hiding a secret. He was already in a relationship with Kim Ward, the mother of one of his children, who was 2 months pregnant at the time. Ward reportedly had no idea that Brown and Houston were engaged until after the fact. The relationship between Brown and Ward ended shortly thereafter. Just before Houston married Bobby Brown, one of her closest friends reached out to make a desperate plea. On the day of the wedding, Eddie Murphy called Houston and begged her not to go through with it. Whether he still had feelings for her or simply believed Brown was the wrong choice, we may never know. Either way, Houston chose to go ahead with the marriage. Bobby Brown may have seemed like the bad boy in the relationship, with Whitney Houston cast as his squeaky clean counterpart, but Houston had a dark side of her own. In his tell-all memoir, Brown claimed that on the day of their wedding, he found Houston using drugs while she was getting ready for their big day. It was a shocking beginning to a marriage that would prove tumultuous, to say the least. With a thriving career and a high-profile marriage, Whitney Houston was in high demand. Then came the opportunity to star in The Bodyguard. With a talented cast and crew, a powerful soundtrack, and a wave of anticipation, the movie was poised to be a massive success. But that didn't mean the process would be easy for Houston. Houston's casting sparked concern from studio executives, particularly regarding the interracial romance between her character and Kevin Costner's. As a result, she was nearly cut from the film's trailer entirely. Despite the controversy and mixed reviews, The Bodyguard became a major box office hit. Houston's performance was a driving force behind its success. But another unexpected contributor played a key role: Dolly Parton. Parton had suggested her song "I Will Always Love You" to the film's producers, but never received confirmation that Houston would actually perform it. Then one day, she heard Houston's version on the radio. Her reaction was unforgettable. "That was one of the most overwhelming feelings I've ever had in my life, about anything," Parton said. The song shattered records and became the best-selling single by a female artist in history. Yet, few knew that during the filming of the 1992 hit, Houston was carrying a heavy burden. She was pregnant when production began, but soon after, she suffered a miscarriage. Years later, she opened up about the experience, describing the heartbreak of having to return to set the next day and perform as if nothing had happened. Kevin Costner later revealed that the woman he carries on The Bodyguard's iconic movie poster wasn't actually Whitney Houston, but her body double. After the miscarriage, Houston had taken time off to rest. Costner decided to shoot the photo with her double, instructing her to keep her face hidden to convey the fear the character was feeling. Costner himself ultimately chose that image for the poster. The Bodyguard marked a major turning point in Whitney Houston's career, boosting both her popularity and record sales. But the success didn't sit well with her jealous husband, Bobby Brown. Unlike Houston, Brown didn't have the same level of fame or influence, and Houston once remarked, "Something happens to a man when a woman has that much fame." Brown was reportedly abusive, and he later admitted to having multiple affairs during their marriage, but that wasn't the full extent of the turmoil. Despite the strain that Houston's success put on their relationship, there was one undeniable bright spot. In March 1993, the couple welcomed their daughter, Bobby Christina Brown. Both Houston and Brown had longed to start a family, and her birth brought them immense joy. Not long after Bobby Christina's arrival, Houston began rehearsals for the ambitious Bodyguard World Tour. From the start, the tour was surrounded by controversy. Tabloids claimed Whitney showed up late on opening night and was rude to a fan. Rumors also circulated that she had overdosed on diet pills. As the tour progressed, it became clear that it was taking a toll on Houston, physically and emotionally. The pressure eventually led to heartbreak. Late in the tour, Houston announced she was pregnant again, but just days later, she suffered a miscarriage and had to cancel a performance. It was a deeply trying time for her. Throughout the 1990s, Houston continued to solidify her place as an A-list star. In 1996, she became pregnant once more and opened up to People magazine, admitting she was terrified of suffering another loss. Tragically, just weeks after the interview, Houston's worst fear came true when she experienced another miscarriage. She was devastated by the loss. Meanwhile, Bobby Brown's reputation was deteriorating. He became infamous for his legal troubles, including a DUI conviction that resulted in jail time, all while Houston was appearing in family-friendly films like The Preacher's Wife. Despite her personal struggles, Whitney Houston found significant professional success in the late 1990s. She began recording a few new songs for a greatest hits album, but the sessions proved so productive that they evolved into a full-length studio release. The result was My Love Is Your Love, an album filled with hits. The 1990s had been a high point for Houston's career, but the next decade would prove to be incredibly difficult. The trouble began during her 1999 My Love Is Your Love tour. Houston was frequently late to performances, and behind the scenes, her behavior became increasingly erratic. The tabloids began to speculate about her substance use and her troubled marriage to Bobby Brown. It marked the start of a long period of intense public scrutiny that would be hard to escape. By the mid-2000s, Houston's struggles with substance use became more visible. Paparazzi noticed that it was taking a toll on every aspect of her life. Unfortunately, this wasn't the only issue she was facing. Houston had long denied that Brown was violent and abusive, but in 2003, the truth came to light. After a 911 call, police arrived at their home to find Houston with a bruised cheek and a cut lip. Brown was charged with misdemeanor battery, yet despite the incident, the couple later left the courthouse together hand in hand. In 2005, Bobby Brown launched a reality TV show titled being Bobby Brown. The series offered an unfiltered look at their chaotic relationship, which included frequent arguments and the toll that substance use was taking on both of them. Although the show drew strong ratings, Houston was visibly uncomfortable and later distanced herself from the spotlight. Once Whitney Houston refused to appear in the partially filmed second season of being Bobby Brown, the network canceled the show entirely. In a later interview with Oprah Winfrey, Houston referred to the series as a train wreck. In 2006, Bobby Brown's sister, Tina Brown, released disturbing photos of Houston's home during the worst phases of her substance use. The images revealed shocking neglect, rotting food, beer cans, cigarette butts, and rubbish scattered throughout the house. Tina claimed she released the photos in hopes of pushing Houston to get help, but she later expressed regret for the decision. Tragically, this wasn't the only time that exploitative photos would haunt Houston's life. Throughout her marriage to Bobby Brown, the couple's struggles often played out in public, yet they had always insisted they were working through things together. So when Whitney Houston filed for divorce in late 2006, it came as a shock to many. Despite their individual turmoil, they had always presented themselves as a united front. But this time, it was clear Houston was finished. In 2007, the court finalized the divorce, granting Houston full custody of their daughter, Bobby Christina. After a decade of chaos and heartache, it looked as though Houston was ready to start over. But starting over would prove very difficult. In a candid 2009 interview with Oprah, Houston opened up about the demons she had been battling. She admitted to struggling with substances for years. She said what had started gradually eventually became a daily habit. Houston revealed she had gone through rehab and was working on maintaining sobriety one day at a time, but temptation proved relentless. Though she re-entered treatment to stay clean, it was an uphill battle. She eventually returned to her music career. Despite her efforts and her determination, Houston later admitted that her struggle was ongoing. She voluntarily entered rehab once more, still hoping to reclaim her life. But sadly, it was too late. On February 11, 2012, Whitney Houston was found unconscious in her suite at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Paramedics tried to revive her for 20 minutes, but were unsuccessful. Houston died at the age of 48, and almost immediately, the world began to mourn. Law enforcement officers stated they did not suspect foul play in Houston's death. A month later, an autopsy confirmed this, ruling her death accidental. The cause was determined to be drowning combined with the effects of heart disease and substance use. The night she died, Houston was scheduled to appear at a pre-Grammy Awards party hosted by Clive Davis, the man who had discovered her. Instead of canceling the event, Davis chose to go on with the celebration. Shockingly, the party took place in the very same hotel where Houston had passed away, with her body still in the building. Many publicly condemned Davis for not canceling the evening, but he wasn't the only one who chose to publicly grieve. Houston's ex-husband Bobby Brown spent the day grieving, but still appeared at a scheduled performance that night. Fans reported that he blew a kiss to the sky and proclaimed, "I love you, Whitney," during the show. Soon after her passing, the Houston family organized a large memorial service for the star. Kevin Costner, Houston's co-star in The Bodyguard, spoke, and many close friends performed musical tributes. A visibly distraught Bobby Brown appeared briefly, but left soon after the service began. In her final years, Houston was rumored to have been dating Ray J, the younger brother of her friend and collaborator Brandy. Ray J was reportedly one of the first people on the scene at the hotel when Houston passed, and was said to be devastated by the loss. Following Houston's death, tabloids published leaked photos of the hotel room where she had spent her final hours. The chilling images show the bathtub where she drowned, wet debris from paramedics' attempt to revive her, and remnants of the room service she had ordered, her final meal. After the loss of her mother, Bobby Christina frequently made tabloid headlines for reasons that were all too familiar. Substance use, unstable relationships, and dramatic weight loss. The eerie similarities between Bobby Christina and her mother didn't end there. On January 31, 2015, Bobby Christina was found unresponsive in her home by her friend and rumored partner Nick Gordon. Emergency services were called and life-saving efforts were made. She remained in and out of a coma for 6 months before sadly passing away at the age of 22 on July 26, 2015. For years, there were whispers that Whitney Houston had been in a relationship with her lifelong friend Robin Crawford. In 2019, Crawford finally revealed the truth. Their friendship had turned romantic at one point, but Houston feared it would damage her career and ended the affair. They returned to being just friends. The truth about Houston's relationship with Crawford was not the only revelation following her death. Some of Houston's friends and family have recently alleged that an older cousin abused Houston when she was a child. Whitney's half-brother and former manager say she confided in them about the abuse privately. Her half-brother alleges he was also a victim. These allegations were made public in a 2018 documentary. Despite all the turmoil she faced, Houston remained hopeful until the very end. Just hours before she passed away, she called her longtime assistant Mary Jones and made a heartbreaking confession, expressing her desire to get her life together and to one day find peace in heaven. Though her journey was marked by personal demons and tragedy, her status as a musical legend is undeniable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.